stably brought down for a protracted period of time by outer, external interventions. The main pillar of this is the national economic policy response. And this is made up by two components. First, put your public finances in order. Second, undertake structural reforms so that competitiveness is enhanced and thereby growth and job creation.
Thank you. Next question. Yeah.
Ralph Atkins from the Financial Times.
Where is
here. Two questions. Firstly, do you think the ECB has always argued that the idea of a Eurozone breakup is absurd?
I'm sorry.
The ECB has always said previously that the idea of a Eurozone breakup is absurd. Do you think it's wise now for Eurozone politicians to be talking about the possibility of one country leaving? And the second question, related to that and related to your previous answer, you're here now for an 8-year term. Some people worry what the Eurozone will look like in 8 years' time. Are you prepared now to make a commitment that you'll do whatever's necessary to keep the Eurozone in one piece, including, if necessary, becoming a lender of last resort to governments? Thank you.
Thank you. The first question, I think the real answer is it's not in the treaty. And I have nothing to add to that. It's not in the treaty. On the second question, actually I have a question for you, really. What makes you think that to become the lender of last resort for governments is actually the thing that you need to keep the Eurozone together? Excuse me, can I say, thank you very much for the photographs, but I would like to see Ralph Atkins.
Okay.
No, I don't think that is really in the remit of the ECB. The remit of the ECB is maintaining price stability over the medium term. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Marica De Feo, Corriere della Sera. That was it? Are rates appropriate?
I'm sorry?
Are rate? I mean, that was it.
Which rates?
Interest rates.
Yeah. Are
interest
rates appropriate?
Appropriate now? Are you happy, or do you still have some powder?
Oh, no. I mean, the answer to this question is that we, as you know by now, by 8 years with Jean-Claude Trichet, is we never pre-commit.
Okay, next question.
If rates are appropriate, you say.
Please, next question.
Eva Kühnen from Reuters. Mr. Draghi,
yeah.
Jean-Claude Juncker has said today that the Eurozone is preparing for a possible exit of Greece. What role or what part would the ECB play in such plans? And the other question is, what message are you going to tell the G20 leaders when you meet them tonight on the Eurozone?
Well, on the first question, really, I answered before. It's not in the treaty. We are all bound by the treaty. And so we can't really conceive of situations which are not envisaged in the treaty. As far as the message tonight and tomorrow in Cannes, that it doesn't have much to do with my hat as ECB president, because I've been invited there as chairman of the FSB, the Financial Stability Board. And it's going to be my last day as chairman of Financial Stability Board, as you know, because I'll resign tomorrow.
Okay.
So my message will be entirely 100% made of financial stability considerations and the work that the FSB is proposing to the G20 leaders for the next year.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Yes, you're Brian.
Thank you. Brian Blackstone with the Wall Street Journal. Could you explain a little bit more your rationale behind the interest rate cut? If you had kept rates where they were you worried that inflation would fall too quickly and that maybe there would be excessive disinflation or even deflation without an interest rate cut? And also on the bond purchases, former President Trichet had used to say that once the EFSF is operational, the ECB would not be buying bonds anymore. Will you make that same commitment? Thank you.
Thank you. But as I said before, we've looked at the behavior of several variables, the real economy, where we observe the weakening of various aggregate demand components. We've looked at survey data showing a worsening of the indicators that I mentioned before. We looked at other forecasts by other organizations, and they also showed a weakening of this. Then we looked at our monetary analysis. We cross-checked the two, and we've concluded that there was basically a weakening of the business cycle, and also the likelihood that we may have to revise downward our projections that will be presented next month. And we also concluded that there was no threat to price stability were we to lower by 25 basis points our interest rates. No, we don't foresee deflation. On the S&P, as I said before, I think we have to judge the S&P by its stated functioning, its stated intentions, its stated reasons. Namely, we said it's temporary, it's limited, and it's justified by monetary policy considerations. And so we will assess the S&P functioning from these angles. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question, Wolfgang. Yeah.
Wolfgang Preußel, Financial Times Deutschland. Hi. One question for President Draghi and one question for Vice President Constancio, please. I'm a bit surprised by your somewhat legalistic answer on Greece and that it's not in the treaty. If you have senior Eurozone politicians talking about a potential leaving of Greece, of the Eurozone, isn't it up to the ECB to consider how this, if it's supposed to happen, can be done technically and whether it can be done technically or not? And for Vice President Constancio, you have seen in your time here at the ECB Council President Trichet in the chair where President Draghi is sitting now, and you have seen President Draghi today. What is the difference in style and substance in the two leaderships? Thank you.
If I can comment, the second question is much better than the first. But no, but on the first point, you see, I wouldn't call my answer legalistic. There is very little that we have other than the treaties. In a sense, the remit of this institution is enshrined in the treaty. And so I think legalistic would be the right word. We have to, in a sense, have a full respect of the spirit and the letter of the treaties. And an issue like the breakup of the Eurozone is not a marginal one. So that's when, in a sense, the power of our treaties comes into question. And so I don't know whether if legalistic is kind of wants to belittle this concept, it's probably not the right word. If it's meant to say that we are using the treaty as our reference point for decisions in an area as important as this one, then it's the right word to use. Vitor.
Well, thank you. The difficult one, yes, for me. On substance is the same. Don't forget that President Draghi has been a member of the Governing Council for many years. So he's totally embedded in what has been the approach of the Governing Council over the years. And you see also continuity of analysis in the initial statement, in his answers. Let me remind you that last month, President Trichet said that, of course, the possibility of a rate cut was discussed in the meeting. So this is not, the decisions today are not something that would be out of the continuity of analysis. And as the President explained, the indicators since then only aggravated and justified today's decision. So I would say no differences on substance. On style, the same approach to have the opinion and inputs of everyone. That is also the same. Of course, there are, as always, personal differences, but I will perhaps